Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me and allowing me to continue to be your daily advocate. If you're new here or you're not subscribed for any reason, please do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button. Thank you to all of you who have been watching and following me for so long. It truly means a lot, and I'm glad that I can be this person.
Just today, Judge Torres denied the SEC motion to strike the fair notice defense, and this is absolutely huge. This is a gigantic win for XRP holders and Ripple, and is a giant hit to the SEC's BS lawsuit. So what this essentially means, for those of you who don't know, the fair notice defense was essentially Ripple coming to the court and saying, hey, the SEC never told us selling XRP was wrong or was breaking any rules, and we even had Brad Garlinghouse come out a couple weeks ago and told us that the SEC had never told him once or Ripple that they viewed XRP was a security. Because the SEC is the one who makes the rules on what's a security or not, Ripple never had the fair notice that what they were doing was wrong. The SEC never told them that selling XRP was in violation of any laws, and therefore, how were they supposed to know what they were doing was wrong? Obviously then, Ripple raised this issue to the court and said the SEC is suing us based on something they never told us was against the rules. So how can we be guilty for doing something that there's no rules about and the SEC never even told us we weren't allowed to do it? Ripple brought this fair notice argument to the court, essentially saying, this is BS, how are we supposed to know what we were doing was wrong? The SEC clearly knew they never told Ripple what they were doing was wrong. They never told Ripple XRP could be a security. So they were obviously very threatened by this argument Ripple was trying to make to the court. Therefore, they tried to strike down Ripple's argument that they were never given fair notice. They were trying to prevent Ripple from even being able to make this argument to the court. Well, just today, the leading judge on this case, Judge Torres, actually denied the SEC's motion to strike down the fair notice defense, meaning Ripple will be able to argue to the courts that they did not have fair notice and were never told XRP was a security. Therefore, the SEC's entire case is essentially invalid. So this is huge. And if we take a look what the different high-level people at Ripple had to say about this, their leading legal general counsel, Stuart Alderati, said today's order makes it clear that there's serious questions to whether the SEC ever provided Ripple with fair notice that its distributions of XRP since 2013 would ever be prohibited under securities laws. Good to see the judge rejecting the SEC's attempt to prevent Ripple from pursuing its fair notice defense. It's even more imperative that the sun sets on the SEC's approach of regulation by enforcement. So this is huge because this is essentially pointing out that the SEC is suing Ripple based on something that they never even told anyone was against the rules. That is the biggest problem with this case to date. The SEC is making it up as it goes. It never laid down clear guidelines for people to follow, and now it's looking to attack different companies for essentially not following its made-up rules. This is one of the most aggravating parts about this case, but it's so exciting to see Ripple will now be able to argue this to the court and essentially potentially throw out this entire case against them. Now, this might have even bigger implications, and I'm going to tell you pretty soon why this could actually force the SEC to settle this case ASAP, and this is probably the most important thing about this ruling. So Jeremy Hogan points out, boom, and I don't use that term lightly, the SEC's motion to strike the fair notice defense is denied. This is what we've been waiting for. Now the SEC has something to lose. And this is the most important part you need to understand about all of this. Because the fair notice was actually not ruled on yet, it was only ruled that Ripple would be able to argue it. Technically, the Ripple's fair notice defense could still be denied. The only thing that was ruled today was that Ripple would be able to argue it in court. But this makes it imperative that the SEC not lose the fair notice defense against Ripple, and is going to make it much more appealing for them to settle this case. They cannot risk losing the fair notice defense because that essentially guarantees them a loss against every single cryptocurrency company that had a token prior to this ruling. They cannot afford that. We need to remember Ripple is a good actor in the cryptocurrency industry. There are so many other bad actors. Why would the SEC risk losing every single case against countless bad actors simply because they want to beat Ripple, one of the only transparent, good actors in the entire crypto space? The SEC is not going to risk losing all these future cases simply to beat Ripple. At the end of the day, this case against Ripple, the SEC has not brought any valid evidence to the table. They have continually lost on these motions, they have yet to bring any good claims, and realistically, they have been on defense this entire time. The SEC is going to be more likely to settle than ever because, like I said, they cannot risk losing fair notice. Now, I want to keep moving and read some other lawyers' opinions. Bill tweeted out, massive result for Ripple as the SEC's motion to dismiss the fair notice defense is denied. This is a huge defeat for the SEC as the defendant's motion to dismiss were also denied. All parties have incentives to settle this lawsuit. This decision creates a precedent for many other cryptos to rely on. If the SEC continues to enforce its selective regulate by enforcement. So what he's saying here is if the SEC dares to go much further in this case, they are going to have to be very careful of creating standards and playbooks for other cryptocurrency projects to follow. The SEC, the last thing they want to do is create clarity in this market. The more clarity in this market there is, the less power they have over these different projects. It is in their best incentive to settle this case immediately, put all the disclosures with Ripple behind closed doors, and then to continue to be able to go after other projects via regulation by enforcement. This is clearly not something I want to happen, but realistically, I believe how this looks like it's going to play out, and this is how a lot of different lawyers are also saying it will likely play out. Now, there was something else that got denied today by Ripple, but I'm going to tell you guys why I don't necessarily think that was a very big deal. Brad Garlinghouse tweeted out, if you weren't paying attention, then you should be now. Huge win for Ripple today, and while we would have preferred that the case against Chris and me to end now, the SEC must prove its claims. We are confident that ultimately all of them will be dismissed. So for those of you who don't know, it was also ruled today that by the court that Brad and Chris tried to dismiss this case against them, that essentially what they were doing was knowingly wrongful. Clearly it wasn't. The court decided to not dismiss Brad and Chris's allegations immediately, and likely the only reason they did that was the SEC was already handed a massive loss. This was a very easy motion for the court to kind of, if they already gave Ripple a massive win, they just gave the SEC something so they had less to complain about. Also, John Deaton pointed out essentially that the only reason that this was essentially denied by the court, Brad and Chris's motion to dismiss the case, was because essentially the judge has to assume the allegations made are true. So she can't necessarily dismiss them yet before all the facts are on the table. Ultimately, it looks like the court was just trying to give the SEC something because at the end of the day, they lost the most important motion, and that was to strike fair notice. It looks like to me this is going to be a huge incentive to bring both sides to the settlement table. And ultimately, I believe a settlement is now more likely than ever. It's important to point out that there are some more motions on the table. We still don't have an official ruling on William Hinman's emails, and there was actually another motion today that I'm going to cover in a later video. So there are still other things to be sorted out, but this is a massive win for Ripple, no doubt about it, and I think it's going to do a lot to bring the SEC to the settling table. And if they weren't already there and it was actually Ripple holding out, then I believe Ripple's terms just got a whole lot better. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone has a great weekend. This is some super exciting news to start the weekend, and ultimately, I'm really happy, and I think we are on the back end of this case. I believe it's going to be wrapping up soon. The more wins Ripple gets, the more likely a settlement is any day now, and it looks like based on this, the court is on Ripple's side.
So enjoy your day, everybody. I'm always here for you. Leave any comments or questions below, and be sure to subscribe. But thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you. Enjoy your day, and I always have your back. So thanks so much, everybody.